favorite person in life. He's taught me so much and done everything. He failed at one thing. All these guys up here are great horsemen and can ride ponies. And he tried his damnedest and bought a pony that cost about $20,000, and it was literally push button, but I never learned to ride a pony. And I'm surprised I was able to keep my job for 7 years. But I have a lot of fond memories, and he was very good on the track and off the track to me.
Thank you, Karen. Dallas?
Well, I tell you what, I started working for him when I was 26. Randy Bradshaw, he actually hired me, and I went up to Minnesota and hooked up with him up there, and talked me into, we just talked, and went out to California, and first time I met Wayne, he's like, well, shit, I'm not coaching basketball anymore. You ride horses? I said, yeah. I said, I'm pretty damn good, too. So he said, well, we're going to find out. So it started off out there, and, it was just a great time. All of these guys. I know Ron a little bit, but I've known Todd since he's been like 8 years old. I actually hired Mike over the phone, and turned out great. I saved Karen McLaughlin's life in swimming at Cypress Lake. And I met George when he was about 15 and fell in love with him. And Mark Hennig saved my ass working for Wayne a couple of times. So I got a lot of ties with these guys. And, we got some stories on Wayne. And he.
Let's hear them.
Well, I'll tell you one that Doc Copeland told me. That horse about 20 years ago or 15 that they paid about $13 million for. I think Wayne was bidding on him, and they were sitting right over there. And they were up to about $12 million, and Wayne tapped Copeland on the shoulder and said, is this real money? Only Wayne could think that, 12, 13 million. Man, we had planes. We had napkins in the planes with Wayne Lukas on them. We had cups. We had Jeeps with car phones. Man, we'd call our aunt, our uncle. And as you know, his son Jeff was one of the greatest, taught us all up here a lot. And Jeff would chew our ass out about that phone bill. And Wayne would be, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And so we had rings. Karen's got the ring here tonight. We had the hats, we had everything. But everything had his name on it. And we all had great ponies. He always made sure, boy, if he come to town and that pony was out of line, you would lose your job. The pony better be taken care of more than anything. That's one thing he prided himself on. And I'll tell you what, boy, it was a great role. And my path is being a horse trainer has come through him. And I'm proud of him to say I work for him, work for his son, and all of these guys. Man, it's been terrific. And I hope some of you guys get as lucky one day.
Thank you, Dallas. George?
Well,
That's good.
I just can't say how proud I am to have come from the organization. I got really lucky that I went to work for actually Mark Hennig's father when I was just getting in the game, and he said that if I worked for him for a while that he would feed me into Wayne's barn when and if an opportunity came up. And it came to fruition a lot sooner than I thought. I got to go to New York and be a foreman under Todd there, and I was kind of starstruck with everything. And just so many great horses and great people that we worked with, and just learned so much. I know one of the things that stuck with me, I was only with Wayne maybe 3 or 4 months, and I was with Dallas at Turfway.
Freezing cold.
And Dallas got sick. He was sick, could not come to work for days. But the first day I was there, I've been a barn rat, didn't go to the track. I didn't really know much about what was going on the track. I was just back there being a foreman and running the crew. And Wayne's out in California, so you got to call him at about 7:30 in the morning. That's 4:30. He's there at the barn every morning early. So I was a little intimidated about the situation. I don't know what I'm looking at. And I got on the phone with Wayne, and Wayne said, well, son, this is what you've been trained for. I've got the utmost confidence in you. And like when I got off the phone with him that day, it was just easy. He knew exactly what to say right at the right moment, and he's just a great motivator and a great coach, and I always appreciate that. So trying to think of some other stories. We always get a giggle about Wayne running up there to the 8th pole on his pony. Probably doesn't even have a stopwatch, and he's waving those riders on. They probably broke off in 33 and change. He doesn't care. Come on, pick it up. We got to go faster. You can't go fast enough. We always got a kick out of that. And another thing I remembered was at Belmont, they had a club there called the Dublin Pub that I used to go to on, I think it was like Thursday nights. And I was in there one night when he was in town, and he shows up in there, and I was like, oh, what's he doing in here? He must be on the prowl or something. But I stayed over in the corner because I didn't want him to see what I was doing. But I was just curious just how long he was going to stay there. And I couldn't, I had to leave. It must have been past midnight, and I walked out the door. He was still going. And sure enough, he was there at the barn bright and early next morning. But
Cordero dragged me in there. I was supposed to prove that I could dance.
Good stuff. Mark. Mark is a good Twitter follow, by the way. He'll let you know what's going on way before anyone else will in the mornings. I like that.
Honored to be here, obviously, to honor the boss. We'd all be remiss if we didn't express how sorry we are Jeff isn't here to take part in something
Amen
like
to
this.
that.
He was a big part of our lives, too. I got my start with Wayne. I was working in California for Jack Vanberg, living in a tack room at Del Mar, Hollywood Park and Del Mar. And thankfully, Kieran, who's married to my sister, was back east, I believe, at Monmouth at the time. And I wasn't too happy living in a tack room at Del Mar, working for Jack. So I talked to Kieran, and he told me, maybe just go see Wayne. So I got up every morning, and I'd go and meet Wayne when he was coming in the stable gate and act like I was walking to the barn. I already lived at the barn, so I'd just run to the front gate and time to meet him getting out of his car and act like I was walking to work. And he finally took the bait and called Kieran and said, what about this kid? He gets up early in the morning. He said, I see him walking into work every morning. So I got lucky, and he offered me a job and saved my life and sent me back to New York. And Jeff picked me up that night at the airport when I flew to New York, and we walked down the shed row, and Winning Colors was a 2-year-old, and there was a barn full of runners there, probably one of the greatest assembly of racehorses ever. So it was a great initiation, and I'll forever be appreciative.
Thank you very much, Mark. Ron Moquette. Ron, I know that you are a big fan, and I really enjoy the respect and tributes that you show Mr. Lukas through your Twitter stuff, and I pay very close attention to that. And tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with Team Lukas.
Well, I grew up
A little louder.
started with quarter horses and went over to thoroughbreds, and it seemed like I'd get on the outskirts of everything, and I'd look down I thought, that's how you need to be. You'd see these guys working, and they were all business on the track, and their horses always looked great, and they were always in the right spot, and they were always winning. So I was really impressed and somewhat idolized the operation. Never got an invitation to go work for them. But I remember a couple of the first times I met him, and I think it was '87. I bought an old horse off of him, a 2-year-old named Rare Money, and that would be one of my first thoroughbreds. It's by Tanks Prospect, and he helped me a little with that horse, and then when we finally got on the Derby stage, like, oh my God, I'm about to get to run the Kentucky Derby. We're gonna race against what's now a colleague and a friend of Lukas, who has the favorite in the Southwest, which is a prelim to the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby. I had a horse named Far Right come up the rail, and we won the race with Mike Smith and beat Mr. Z that you talked about. I was like, that's a huge goal of mine, was to beat him in one of those races. So I get a phone call, and for Lukas to use a cell phone, it's an amazing feat. He has the flip phone, and he watches it ring, and he don't ever answer it, you know. So it's on the wake up the dead volume, but he calls me, and I'm like, Wayne Lukas is calling me, and I'm getting the congratulations call. This is affirmation. This is what I'm wanting. And I said, hey, Wayne, what's happening? He said, hey, congratulations, nice race. And I said, thank you, sir. He said, just remember, one robin don't make it spring. So,
Nice.
that's my introduction.
Mike Maker.
Well, I was kind of the same as Mark. Mark doesn't remember this, but I was galloping horses in Detroit, and we went to Gulfstream one year, and I was trying to, I'd be late to the paddock because I was trying to watch Wayne's horses. I didn't have sports heroes as a kid. I had Wayne, so I'd be late to the paddock to bring one over to watch the Breeders' Cup or the Derby and things like that. So Mark was in Gulfstream, and I tried to get a job a couple times, no avail. I was in California. I also worked for Jack Van Berg. I tried to get on with Mark and Wayne to no avail. So one idea I had is maybe it is me. So I called up Dallas, and he hired me. I disguised my voice. So anyway, as they say, I didn't check any of the boxes. I couldn't dress, didn't speak, just showed up to work. But so after Dallas left, I always met Wayne at the Pep Boys to drive to Keeneland. So here's my chance. I'm going to make a big impression. Pull up to the red light, stop. Wayne goes, what are you doing? I'm thinking, well, oncoming traffic, red light, I don't know. I'm thinking this is an easy question, but all of a sudden it got difficult. California, they run you over. Go, go. So we're going to Keeneland. I'm flying through a construction zone. Here comes the police. Pull over, Wayne. Thank God, I've been telling them to slow down for miles. Sure, everybody I hear have connections to get out of tickets. I contact an attorney because I think the police officer was nice enough to give me a ticket, go 80. He says, no, that's reckless driving. You got to go to traffic school. And I'm thinking, shit. So I show up at this room. It's night school because we go to Keeneland and so forth, and looked like I was walking into a biker bar. And everybody had to get up in the room and say what they did wrong, and these guys were DUIs. I just got out of prison. I had to take this class to get my license. I'm thinking, boy, I don't fit in here. So I just stand up and said, I don't live in the past. I'm just looking forward, and sat back down. But anyway, I've looked up to Wayne and his assistants, and still trying to achieve everything they have, and not only just that, but just to be the gentleman that they've become. And I really appreciate everything these guys have done for me.
Thank you very much, Mike. I want to give another thank you to Enviro Equine for bringing me out here for this. This is just one of those moments that I'll never forget, the opportunity to look at this assembly of unbelievable horsemen and the king himself. As an impressionist, I often study, and I've studied D. Wayne Lukas for many years, and I used to always just think all you had to do is just put a microphone in front of him, and you don't even need to ask any questions. He's going to let you know what he wants to say. And when I watch Todd Pletcher on these, I love watching Todd Pletcher interviews because I can't quite get my Todd Pletcher down yet. It's kind of weak, but I will get it down. But a lot of the answers are very much in line with what I've heard from Mr. Lukas. He's not quite as aggressive, but I'll tell you one thing that both of them have in common, which is a very good thing for people to learn, which is that when you're being interviewed by someone in the media, know what their name is. And when you mention that, it's just a subtle acknowledgement, and it's a very classy gesture. And one of the classiest guys in racing and one of the great winners, Todd A. Pletcher, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think what you guys can see, one of the most fortunate things about what we all were able to do was share, all these fantastic times working for Wayne, and part of it was people were attracted to Wayne's organization, as you can see by the quality of people that are up here. Everyone could recognize that it was an opportunity of a lifetime, and to get a chance to work for someone that terrific, that great, was just unbelievable experience for all of us. But actually, a couple of the most impressive things I've ever seen Wayne do had nothing to do with training horses. We used to meet every morning at Saratoga at 4:30, and we'd go over the day board and the set list. And Wayne would come in every morning from Dunkin' Donuts, and he would have 2 huge maple-covered cinnamon rolls and a large coffee. And while we were going over the board each morning, he would take down both of those cinnamon rolls. And these things had to be like 2,500 calories each. And then he'd said that's all he'd eat for the whole day, and he'd show up, looking like $1 million in one of those $20,000 suits. But I always wondered how he stayed in those, eating those cinnamon rolls. And another thing I remember is, I think it might have been when Thunder Gulch and Timber Country came for the Belmont. He came to the barn. He flew in with the horses a lot of times, and so I was giving him a ride back to the Garden City Hotel. And as we're going down towards the hotel, we drive by this Carvel shop, and Wayne says, "Hey, let's stop in there and get a little ice cream or a shake or something." So we pull in there, and he tells the girl at the service counter, "Give me a double chocolate milkshake." So he's watching her as she makes it, and she uses vanilla ice cream and chocolate syrup. So once she gets it all ready for him, she hands it to him. He goes, "I want a chocolate ice cream and chocolate syrup. Chocolate. She goes, "I'm sorry, sir, I'll take this back." He goes, "No, give me that." So he drinks that one while she's making the chocolate one. He drank that one on the way. But in all seriousness, though, recently I called Wayne a couple months ago. My son was applying to Texas A&M University, and Wayne was recently honored there in honorary degree, and so I asked him if he would write a recommendation letter for my son. And typical of Wayne, he took the ball and like went way beyond the call of duty, and followed up and called me a number of times to make sure everything went smoothly. And he's just a terrific person. He's taken an interest in all of our lives, all of our personal lives. And a lot of times I'll send my kids some quotes in the morning, just a group text to try to inspire them a little bit. And the other day I saw a motivational quote that I don't think I've ever seen one that applied more to a person than this one does to Wayne. And I think I remember it correctly, but the basis of it was, no matter how you feel, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. And I don't think there's anyone in the world that personifies that more than Wayne Lukas. Because when you're a home run hitter like he is, that means you're going to strike out a lot. But I've never seen anyone with as much perseverance as he has show up every morning, regardless of Breeders' Cups, Derbies, Preaknesses, whatever it is, or go 0 for 5. He's there fighting hard every day, and his commitment to excellence is unparalleled.
Thank you very much, Todd. There's only one D. Wayne Lukas, my man, one of the most articulate, brilliant guys we've ever listened to. Mr. Lukas, first of all, I want to ask 2 questions and let you say whatever you want to say, but I wanted to ask you, when you think about the fulfillment of your career and watching these guys under you and all the horses, what does that mean to you, A? And then B, we always hear when we talk about D. Wayne Lukas about your amazing impact on the thoroughbred industry and all these people. Where did you learn from?
Well, is this on? Yep. First of all, I don't remember these guys being so warm and fuzzy when I was working for them. People ask me, who got the most ass chewings?
Dallas, I'd say.
But really,
I'm not all gray hair.
yeah.
Maybe I know what you're
Yeah. But anyhow, to answer your question, Frank, I tell you, the horses come and go, and the champions are great and everything, but to work with these guys put me on their shoulders and put me right in the Hall of Fame. And I mean that sincerely. I would have never, ever got that honor if it wouldn't have been for this bunch right here. They carried me. I mean, I remember so many times, Todd was down at Gulfstream, for example, and we had a Derby prospect down there, maybe Thunder Gulch at the time, and somebody would call me, I'm out in California, and one of the press members would say, what about Thunder Gulch? And I'd say, hell, call Todd, I'm 3,000 miles away. They absolutely were incredible in drinking the Kool-Aid and going all the way and carrying me on their shoulders. I would have never, ever I wouldn't be here tonight without them. And I'm so proud of that. But I've been blessed with a lot of good people in my life. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce you to my wife, Lori.
Please stand
in the
up.
front row. She's the best horse person in our family. I asked Lori the other day, I said, Lori, in your wildest dream, did you ever think you'd be married to a guy that won 4 Kentucky Derbies? She looked at me and said, Wayne, you're not in my wildest dreams. I got this figured out, though. I figured out how to handle this. If you really want to know if they love you, here's what you do, and I'll give you some advice tonight. It's free. And I've been through these marriages. The horse business is tough on these marriages, I'm telling you. But what you do is you get your car and you go get your dog, and you put your dog in the trunk. Then you put your wife in the trunk, close the door down, drive around for 2 hours. When you open the trunk, you'll find out who loves you the most right there. I remember some of the incident. Mark used to like to ride the pony in tennis shoes. That was a complete no-no. We could not have that. You had to have boots on. So one morning, I'm coming at Belmont, and Mark he'd been out on his own, I think, 6-7 years. And Mark's sitting on his pony and holding court there at the end gap at the Belmont track. And he sees me coming down the lane on my pony, and he wheels his pony and goes back to the barn. He's in the middle of telling a story. When he comes back, everybody said, what the hell was that all about? And he said, I spotted the boss coming down the lane. He said, I had to go back and get my boots on. And they said, what the hell are you talking about? You haven't worked for him for 6 years. He said, that doesn't make any difference. He said, I wasn't going to take that ass chewing.
One thing about the wives, Wayne, he's a perfectionist, and we all know the wives have to be good housekeepers. He said, yeah, they all kept the damn house when they left.
For sure. If it wouldn't have been for those divorces, I'd be the biggest owner here on Keeneland Fall Sale. But I really have been blessed with some great clientele, too. I've really had some great clientele. I remember when Bill Young hired me, he brought me in, flew me in, and we go down and they had that little basement in the office out there at Overbrook Farm. And so we get there.